Welcome all to the Awkward GM's Beginner Guide. I am being a lot awkward right now because my mic was in my closet because I did a lot of cleanup recently, and that was a problem. Not a problem for my room being clean. No, it was a problem because I cannot get access to it. Anyway, we are covering right now Trinity Continuum Adventure. Thank you to Onyx Path for giving me this PDF. This is so I knew about Trinity Continuum before. This one came. Oh, I'm still muted. Am I still muted? Test test. Oh no, I'm. Oh, okay, there we go. All right, so thank you to Onyx Path for giving me Trinity Continuum Adventure. I didn't know this one existed actually, but I did know about Trinity Continuum Core, Aether, Aeon, Aberranth, and now I'm like finding out that there are all these other ones that are coming down the pike, and I'm excited for it. Favorite one I think that I'm excited for is Aether, but it's not out yet, but that's probably going to be shown off a couple times. There is to go into some sort of promotional stuff, there is going to be the Onyx Path Con, which is going to show off a bunch of games, I think, probably. It's also going to have some panels and stuff. That is going to be June 16th to the 18th. Additionally, there's going to be an Onyx Path game night on the 26th, the Friday of this week, May 26th. And there's some crowdfunding for They Came From the RPG Anthology. And I'll just do the little Kickstarter thing here. Oh. Kickstarter. There we go. I haven't even looked at that though. They Came From was what I was doing last week. It hasn't started yet. I don't know when it's actually starting, but it's starting soon. Additionally, there's a promotion for Storyteller Screens on Indie Press Revolution if you are interested in that. There we go. I'm done with all those. Now we can get back to the adventure and punching Nazis. And anyway, I'm not sure if that deplatforms me or something because I mentioned that, or puts me in a shadow ban or what have you, but we're going into it. This is Indiana Jones. We know the villains of pulp classics, such as the pulp classics of The Shadow, The Phantom, all those old pulp adventures, which I watched as a kid. The old-timey stuff. The Shadow, my dad used to have the serials on VHS tape. And everyone remembers VHS tape, but for some reason the media likes to say that we don't. We all do. We all have touched that tape, as it were. I love the cover for this. As you can see, we've got a priest on the front, or someone who looks like they might be a priest, and then we've got a bunch of pulp classic adventures, someone just punching a skeleton, a T-Rex, a robot, and these people who look like they're right out of a 1920s pulp adventure with a Tommy gun in hand. And if you haven't guessed, this is a very pulpy game. We've got here the credits. Danielle, Lazon. I am not gonna say names because I feel terrible. But we've got a lot wonderful people who have worked on this project. I like showing off the credits, and there's a nice little special thank you in the beginning. Oh, that's sweet. In any case, we will dive right into this adventure. Oh, there's so much in here. If you were here for my video on how I go through PDFs, I do like to look at the table of contents here, and it gives me a good sense of what's going to be going on here. It looks like you have a bunch of fiction at the beginning. Let's see here. Yeah, bunch of fiction with chapters. That's crazy. And then we've got here the introduction, which is going to give us all the stuff that we'll need to know about the setting, stuff to help inspire us for our campaign and our adventures. Did I skip character creation? No, character creation hasn't happened yet. We've got the allegiances here, which includes Branch 9, which was when I created a character in Trinity Continuum. Branch 9 was what they were based off of. So it looks like there's... I wonder where this sets in the timeline of Trinity Continuum, because one of the aspects of Trinity Continuum is the flux, and how it doesn't show up until like the 20th century, or at least it doesn't show up until like further on, and you have the people who are the talented, who are essentially people touched by the flux who are able to manipulate probability. Then so they have all these extra scenarios that are pre Trinity Continuum's core rules setting, which sort of laid the groundwork for that, I think. But we'll go into that in a bit. So just so we know, we've got this these alliances set up. The Salon of Women Assassins? I don't know what that means, but that's famous. I'm not good at French. I did not take French. I took German. It's set in Chandra Magic, thank you for being in the chat today. It's set in 1934, roughly 10 years after the Hammersmith incident. Okay, I'm gonna have to look up the Hammersmith incident in this just to clarify for some people. We've got our character creation rules right here: origin path, role path, and society path. Very similar to Trinity Continuum, as we've seen before, rather. Oh man, there's a polyglot. Mental edge. I'm always going to take that. I wish I could speak every language, because if I could speak every language, I feel like I would just have so much more fun. That's why best superpower in real life isn't super strength, super speed. It's being able to understand and speak every language, because then you can just go about your daily life like normal without people being like, we need to hire you for a job. I just want to watch movies without subtitles. Is that too much to ask? We've got some new rules here for inspiration, moments of inspiration, spending inspiration, dramatic and editing expanded. Okay. Additional sources of indirect damage. So these are just special rules for environments, some super science stuff. So this is different from the super science of the future. So Aberrant had the superhero, supervillain, super science stuff, and Aeon had the super science as far as like psychic sci-fi science. So this is an entirely another class of science. Maybe it's diesel punk. Diesel punk would be 1934, I believe. I think it's like 1910s to 1950s, because then you get into the nuclear age, and then that's ray gun gothic, or also radioactive punk, or something, nuclear punk. Not sure if that's actually a term, but definitely ray gun gothic, because one of my favorite authors coined that phrase. We have a bunch of GIFs. This is a crap ton of GIFs. I had to stop myself there from swearing, because it's so many. Storyteller's Guide stuff. Running complications, more environmental and conditions or effects. I'm a stickler for environmental effects. Environmental effects really make combat stick out more, because you have this situation where you can start throwing in different scenarios. Like, it might be bad to say, and I might lose some audience members for this, but 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons had a really good environmental hazard system and trap system that allowed you to basically encouraged the game master to add environmental hazards into their game and have it as be like a sort of neutral enemy to have on the field. And so you could have your enemies or your players even throw people into environmental hazards. This seems like it's it's hinting at something a little bit more. Um, I'll go into that later, but that's hinting to me that there's some interesting stuff here if you want to have a unique combat encounter. Now we've got the antagonists and threats, some edges and gifts that are only for them. Those are those special abilities that you guys get for certain skills or functions. And we've got extraordinary powers, some pretty cool ones. These are for your like pulpy type monsters. It feels like, because having a someone who can possess people or go insubstantial, like or a flux beast. That sounds very much like your sort of pulpy monsters that are hiding out in the woods, what have you. Now we've got down here inspired antagonists, setting secrets. Ooh, setting secrets. I might go into that later if we have time. Though I am not allowed to cover everything in the book, because if I did that, you guys wouldn't buy the book. And sadly, that is the purpose of going through this. Now, we are going to cover the Hammersmith incident just a little bit. Let's see what we got here. Group of scientists and scholars at Hammersmith Estate witness experimental telluric engine engine. I am bad at pronouncing things. He died in the explosion that destroyed the engine. His guests became vanguards of the Age of Inspiration. Their exploits and adventures, insights into the nature of these energies, have shaped the inspired world nearly as much as the incident. Are they inspired or talented? Maybe they're inspired. So there was all this stuff here. Going through here. Energy bathed others to demonstrate as well, a lesser degree. Oh, so someone was exposed with a direct dosage of telluric energy released from the explosion. This direct exposure at the source of the telluric engine unlocked incredible potential in these three, making them the most powerful and unusual inspired this age would know. I apologize. I mixed up inspired with talented from Scion, I believe. But anyway, the inspired are going to be these people who are very powerful, pulpy adventurers. Love the artwork here. This really looks like someone made a miniature set or something like that for me. I don't know why. Okay, we covered that. Lexicon. This is the least amount of vocab words I ever have to learn in any role-playing game. So we've got here, Daredevil is someone who has been touched by the telluric energies and has developed extraordinary luck. These are the talents of the adventurer. Okay, so talents aren't Scion. Talents are Trinity Continuum. It's just the inspired are what the talented are called. It seems like it. Someone telluric energy has changed fundamentally and is able to manipulate it as a result. So telluric energy is different from flux. Maybe they're synonyms. I am always very bad with these vocab words. And now I peaked. So now I need to lower my volume so that I'm not peaking. And there we go. Dixon batteries are large containers that can store small amounts of telluric energy for a short amount of time. They are used to power telluric energy superscience devices. Hammersmith incident. An event in 1922 that caused a huge eruption of telluric energy into the world and sparked the advent of the inspired age. Mesmerists are someone who have been touched by the telluric energy and have developed mental capacities and psychic powers, vast mental capacities. Someone stalwart is someone who is touched by the telluric energy and has developed great physical alterations and the ability to manifest dynamic physical effects. I wonder why that's... Oh no, they're all lowercase. Okay, so there are only 3 main Yeah, only 3 main types of inspired. That's interesting. Usually games like these they do tend to do 5. I wonder why this is different. So then we've got strange places, areas of the world replete with telluric energy, where fantastic lands and beings exist. Some believe these areas are different dimensions. So this might be their Hollow Earth thing. Might be so it's fantastical lands, but you might not recognize them as such, as far as I can tell. Now we've got the telluric energy, which we already sort of covered. It's basically the catalyst for this game. Anything else here that we should be going over? Oh, beautiful artwork there. Very 1920s. It's our version. So Adventure is a game of high-flying pulp action set in the slightly more extravagant version of our own 1930s. In this game, you take on the... Oh, okay. So stalwarts are the precursor. Chandra Magic is saying stalwarts are the precursors to the aberrations, whereas mesmerists are the precursors to the scions. It makes sense now that I'm looking at this that if you look at the stalwarts, the mesmerists, and the daredevils, each one of them is set up specifically to, I believe, an arena. So physical being the actually, mental probably being the mesmerists, physicals being the stalwarts. Yeah, physical being the stalwarts, and social probably being the daredevil. Which, I'm guessing. I'm just guessing at that. Man, this art is just so cool. Okay, so I'm not going to be covering too much into the lore, but actually we've got here the daredevils here. They're fantastic. Bullets might bounce off of the iron-hard skin of a stalwart, but the same gun aimed at a daredevil misfires and misses its mark completely. They appear to possess the most favorable luck one person can possess, and so these are the precursor to the talented. So these guys would eventually become the talented in the core rules. Now we have the mesmerists. The mesmerists are their psychics. Allows them to manipulate telluric energies. I'm not seeing anything in here as far as like specific abilities that are attached to the bottom of them, so I'm just gonna keep going there. Stalwarts undergo massive physical transformations. This looks kind of like the Thing, a precursor to the Thing from the Fantastic Four. Gonna turn into a giant rock monster later on when I become an aberrant. 3 paths, 1 adventure. Oh. While all inspired types exist throughout the duration of the continuum, each age shifts the primary focus onto a single... The gift section details which gifts are available to which desired type. Thank you, Onyx Path, in the chat. Take center stage. Trinity. Okay, so Aberrant is the stalwarts, and okay, cool. So let's move on here then. The World of Adventure. Now, I'm not going to cover the World of Adventure because this is going to be all the lore, essentially, of the various different countries and such. We can look a little bit at the strange places like the Bermuda Triangle and the Lost Cities of Africa. But let's get down to the allegiances. Aeon Society. If you've seen the Aeon Society and any of the other Trinity Continuum books, they are the ones that pretty much show up in every Trinity Continuum book that I know of. Again, I'm a beginner just like you guys. I have only really seen the books I've shown off now. So it's this group is going to basically carry on into the future as far as the Aeon Society goes. They work well in mixed groups. Not every character has to be inspired to excel. They embody that belief. with members set up in strategic locations and works well with other societies, branches, blah, blah, blah. I sort of covered them. Now let's look at the air circus. Okay, so Aeon Society was founded, thank you Onyx Path in the chat, right after the Hammersmith incident. So they're only about 11 years old at this point, which is good to know. So this is probably I'm guessing that there's probably a book that, like, this is the book that's closest so far to Aeon Society's founding. Unless there's another book, like, I don't know if Assassins or Aether or something covers that. Aether, I don't think would, right? That's the 1800s, if I'm right. Let's look at the air circus for the moment. Carnival of Air, a traveling air show whose performances spanned across the United States. Meeting in Kansas. Today the society is like the Aeon Society, and the international detective agents hire air circus pilots to deliver packages and people to fly across the dangerous and rescue missions in dangerous territories. This is very much like your Amelia Earhart type organization, as far as I can tell, and that's something in a lot of these old. Oh, okay. Thank you for that little tidbit of behind-the-scenes info, Onyx Path. Adventure was set in 1924, but it was pushed forward to 1934, in this edition, to give us some more Nazi punching. So yes, this will be the closest we'll get to Aeon's founding. Oh, okay, that's good to know. I love a good punching Nazis. Now this is, as I was saying before, I really do love those old serials. My dad used to play them for me all the time, like The Shadow. The Shadow is a really good movie to watch, probably, if you want to get into the mood for Trinity Continuum adventure. And I'm talking about, like, the 1990s version with Alec Baldwin as the Shadow. Okay, so we've got here that they're basically like the United States Army version of the Air Force, because the Air Force was not created yet. That's pretty cool. Now we go to Branch 9. Branch 9 was one that I really liked back in the day. No one can agree which government first formed a Branch 9. The Americans say Teddy Roosevelt started it, the next step from his Rough Riders, and paid with slush funds and given the discretion to do whatever they need to do. So it has 9 leaders, 7 of them on each continent, one that works with the League of Nations, and one who controls their Antarctic storage warehouse, the Ninth Circle, where the most dangerous information and technology is stored. These leaders nominally have no national allegiances and owe all their loyalty to Branch 9. Ah, man. So I just saw League of Nations, which, if you know your history, was the precursor to the United Nations. And if I'm right, they dissolved in 1946. Yep. It was the first attempt at basically having all the governments work together in the world. International Detective Agency. Glad it's not the Pinkertons, given recent events. Criminal enterprises were no longer restricted to local outfits. Their crimes crossing borders and spanning continents. Jewel thieves funneled stolen goods out to the country. Okay, so going back to Onyx Path in the chat, Branch 9 will eventually become Modern Era's Branch 9, which will become Aberrant's Directive. That's cool. There's so much lore that I have to really dig into to get the full extent of these, because these are so interconnected. You can play the game without this interconnectivity if you're just interested in one aspect of it, but it's really fun when you move from one game to another and you can look at it and be like, Oh yeah, these guys did stuff before I even like these guys were the precursors to what I played in a previous game, or they're the ex- extension to or the evolution of the group that I was a part of last game. I think I was watching Dork Tales doing what was it? It was Dork Tales was doing the Mage the Ascension stuff, and the Technocracy having the precursor of the Society of Aether uh, in the Victorian Age of Ascension's Victorian was really cool. It's I agree with you, Chandra Magic. The organizations changing with the different eras is really good because you can always sort of like link back to something you like. As there'll be new stuff, there'll be new factions. I think like the International Detective Agency seems new, and so does the specifically the Air Circus seems like its own thing. I have to say, I'm glad the person whoever's on the Onyx Path thing was the co-dev on Victorian Mage. I'm guessing it's Travis. I'm not sure if it's Travis, but yeah, it was fun watching that. I'm not a fan of Ascension, but it's definitely getting me into it a bit more. If I ever go over the old World of Darkness stuff, I'll be sure to cover that at some point. That's actually a Patreon goal of mine is hitting the $50 a month mark. It is Ian, awesome. Uh, is hitting the $50 mark so I can cover Old World of Darkness because it's just will clash with my stuff with my knowledge of other things. In any case, back to the International Detective Agency, founded in London near the 19th end of the 19th century. Jewel thieves, kidnappers, bundled victims, blah blah blah. The single factor put together sharp investigative minds in the country, providing those intrepid inspectors with dossiers and the charge to solve the crimes detailed wherein. So this is very much a sort of precursor to Interpol, but a more active Interpol that we use in fiction um, as opposed to real life, where Interpol is just an agency that talks with other police districts in other countries, like sort of acts as a middleman between them for international crimes, whereas this is more of these people are actually going out like being like Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that. In fact, there is a prominent member who's a French detective and protege of Sherlock Holmes, which is pretty cool. Organization structure. I'm gonna skip through most of this because I'm seeing if there's anything additional here. Don't see much here. Now, we've got the Order of the Stars. Since Hammersmith incident, people with amazing abilities have appeared all over the world. The various countries of Africa are no different. Though the child of merchants from their teen years, Casablanca native Rabia al-Harak, knew they were different from the others. They had empathy that pushed past an open heart and understanding, but gave them insight that allows them to know things about people they focus on. The most remarkable ability they had was to see the spark of potential in others, and learned later the terms inspired and mesmerist, but didn't change much for them. Okay. So what's this Order of Stars about? It seeks to protect African inspired from predation from colonial powers, and train them to control and hone their gifts so that they can go out and help others. Already less than 5 years since the opening of the Home of Wayward Youth, another base, this under the cover of civic organization in Pretoria, I hope I'm saying that right, South Africa, has been open, and Rabia is looking into ones in Alexandria, Egypt, Mombasa, and British Kenya. Okay, so it seems like this is a very much its own sort of faction located within Africa. I'm always one for stories of um, cultures without colonialism, but this is a very much a faction that is against colonialism in its own way. Likely, there is probably ways that they work with people for greater goods, for the greater good, but that seems to be where it is right now. Okay, Order Star members work well in mixed allegiance groups with Air Circus and Salon des Familles Nouveaux members. I do not speak French. While they do tend to shy away from European and American based organizations, they will work with anyone who can help them further their goals. Awesome. Les Salons des Familles Nouveaux. Maybe it's Nouveau, yes. It's an international alliance of women who aim to take control of their own destinies while empowering women around the world to recognize and reach their own potential. They seek to create a network of women to support one another while fighting against discrimination, abuse, and oppressive regimes. This is all awesome. I love a good feminist organization. Members of the Nouveau appear anywhere their help is needed. They've mounted dangerous rescue missions, breaking up trafficking rings, and the authorities deemed too difficult or low priority to deal with. They provide safe transportation and new identities for those they liberate. And the salon works on choir level, putting proposals in front of politicians, funding women's education and research, and investing in burgeoning businesses. They support women's labor movements with bodies at rallies and picket lines and ink in the newspapers. That's pretty awesome. So a all-woman organization, though I believe there's probably a line in here that says not all of them are women. Some of them are also allies. I'm guessing. Now... Oh, there might be. I'm gonna go down here. Gritty espionage stories to rogue tales. It is members, and it does well mixing with groups of allegiances of Aeon Society, Air Circus, and Order of the Star members. Okay, cool. That one's a really good one. I like that one. I like fiction, especially historical fiction, that takes an anachronistic view of the past, just because it's good for me. I feel more comfortable playing games where I don't have to adjust my moral compass, as it were. Okay, so I do wonder if the Nouveau are precursors to Les Phantoms, my favorite allegiance in core. You know what? I could open up the core book just now and see what we've got for the Phantoms. There might be a reference. Who knows? Did I just screw up the thing? Oh, let's check it out. Check it out. Where are the allegiances? Phantom. Oh, are they a lesser legion? The Phantoms. International gang of thieves, actively of the greatest thieves. French aristocrat. It's possible. It seems to be part of two thieves groups, so it doesn't seem like they're directly tied together, but maybe. Ian will correct me in the chat if he's still around. Oh, La Revolution Éclata. Awesome. Okay, so we do have lesser allegiances. I'm not going to go over them. There's some miscreants and evildoers. Do tell. Always love the evil guys. Criminal Empire here. Invictus Umbra. Invictus is truth. Shadows. If my Latin from Warhammer has taught me right. Um, they are spend underground, Twilight Light. I'm trying to get down here. The Invictus from a collection of rogues fighting the government into a fully fledged thieves guild. So these guys look more like the Phantom. Okay, now we got here, down here to the Order of Murder. Man, serial killers? Seems like serial killers. Content. I'm skimming through this because there's a lot of going into the founding, and I want to make sure that I'm not getting people to lose. I don't want to give it all away. One of the lesser allegiances, Lodestar, are the Pharaoh's Lake Keepers. Oh, that's cool. In addition to forgery, larceny, abduction, and providing false identities to the clients, the Order has developed surgical techniques to alter appearance of a subject to such a degree that even one's closest family would not recognize them. That's pretty cool. Poniatowski Foundation. Adventurers in the Great Unknown. This seems like a very much like that group in the in those old adventurer societies. The group from what is it? Around the World in 80 Days. I can't remember it. So during the Great War. So their initial goal was to explore the unknown and document it for public consumption. They stopped during the Great War. They reemerged in the 1920s after installing administrative functionaries who were unaware of the group's true activities and goals. Publication of the Journal of Exploration resumed, and now focus shifted to an entertainment magazine based on the Foundation's exploits. While the events depicted in the magazine were true, gone was the presentation of scientific findings for public consumption. The public did not seem to mind the shift in tone, as the Journal of Exploration became one of the most popular magazines in publication. Seems like you got your pulpy adventures story writers here. And then Mastery Through Method, the Rational Experimentation Group. Law enforcement over the world began to note an increase in highly equipped laboratories, or laboratories if you're Dexter from Dexter's Lab, in ethically repugnant research. Oh man, this is going down here. They have a very... So these are basically the opposite side of the coin to the Aeon Society, it seems. No one, not even the greatest financial supporters of the Rational Experiment Group, know the truth of its origins or the face of its leadership. It is a web of connections and potentially sprung to life in the wake of Hammersmith's explosion. It's a Frankenstein monster constructed of malevolent science brought to life by an infusion of telluric energy and cold, hard cash. Ah man, these people are seem very much like a Hydra type organization here. The Seven Brothers. They controlled flesh trade from China to California. 1928, he sought to infect all of San Francisco. Ooh. Scientists, the dragon found a way to spread his curse. What's his curse? He had the rare ability to create a nigh infinite number of clones. He used this power to his fullest, coordinating massive projects and shaking the underworld to its knees. Yeah. The modern-day Global Cartography Initiative are funded by Lady Marta Poniatowski. Man, all these interconnections. Thank you, Ian, for being on the chat right now, because I wouldn't even know how some of these groups interconnect with each other. So, we've got a guy who he found a way to spread his curse through the water supply. weaponizing it into a deadly virus that would turn anyone who drank infected water into a copy of himself. That's a scary thought. I definitely can see why La Salon des Femmes Nouveau would stop this guy, because who wants all the women in San Francisco to be turned into men, especially one man? The world thought him dead and his criminal enterprise collapsed. These few clones had been around the longest and used the most often, and many of the ubiquitous dragon's thoughts and memories. So when they felt their connection sever, they knew immediately that the dragon tattoo on their bodies would incinerate them alive. They cut off the tattoos before it could kill them. Okay, so they managed to kill the main guy and hoped it would kill the rest of them. 37 of these... The oldest of these, 37, searched the world over for survivors like him. He eventually found his brothers, and each attempting to act out the last commands from the ubiquitous dragon, but despairing for a desire to do something different. Okay. This one's really gripping me. He commissioned 7 communication devices that the brothers could use anywhere in the world to communicate with one another. So they're basically a giant criminal organization run by 7 doppelgangers of the same person, each with different aspects of this person. I need to get hydrated, but I am going to power through because I only have 15 minutes left. If my voice does cut out, I will rush to get water. Now we have the character creation stuff, which I am going to cover next week. So I'm going to probably jump to some of the new rules here so that I get a better idea of what's going on here. We've got edges, we've got the roles, we've got additional advantages with the gifts. So let's look at the new rules. Inspiration. The inspired in Trinity Continuum Adventure find inspiration in a variety of circumstances. Mesmerists, stalwarts, and daredevils may all select the moments of inspiration listed in the Trinity Continuum core. In addition, they may take any of the following moments of inspiration for their own. So these are an expanded rule from the main rule book. Let's look at the Born This Way. The character was simply born extraordinary. Maybe he was exposed to telluric energy in utero, inherited the inspiration from an inspired parent, or had a lucky combination of circumstances that made him inspired from day one. His childhood and formative years have been marked by his extraordinary abilities, both bringing strife and joy in equal measure. He's had his entire lifetime to grow accustomed to these abilities and often acts older and wiser than his years belie. Okay, so any associated attribute. I'm going to double check the inspired rules here. Inspiration. Determining the difference between a normal human talent. If asked, Paladins cannot tell you how they accomplish things. One may attribute it to hard work. New advantage. Inspiration isn't just a word used to describe a talent's good luck. It is an aspect of being the description of the persona. Inspiration is an advantage, is ranked 1 through 10, and gives the character an inspiration pool equal to her rating, which she can spend to accomplish certain actions. Okay. So you can activate powers with inspirations. Oh, they have different facets. That's what it was, maybe. Okay. As a lab rat, more of often characters inspired as a test subject are a special interest and hunted by people. So this is a lot of background information as far as I can tell for your character. You can spend it on a variety of different things as listed in the core rulebook. You regain inspiration Each session, inspired characters begin play with a full inspiration pool. Additionally, the following methods of regaining inspiration are available. During scene breaks, boldness, concentration, consolation, consolation rather, exposure to telluric catalyst. You gain it as it suffuses their body, gaining a sudden burst of inspiration equal to the destructive facet, but at a cost of suffering a telluric burnout condition. Once per session, stalwart only. Interesting. I didn't notice this. Boldness was only for daredevils. Concentration is only for mesmerists. Okay. Rest. Yeah, you gain 1 point of inspiration per hour spent in restful sleep. Okay. We've got the dramatic editing ability that got expanded. Costs inspiration to do so. And this is expanded from Trinity Continuum rulebook, so just going in here. Dramatic editing. Sometimes events aren't going the way you want them to. You can use dramatic editing in a way for a character to change the circumstances, literally bending reality to her will. She isn't bending reality per se, but is instead reaching between her universe into another, a very similar universe, and rewriting its truth onto her own. Okay, so you're basically making changes to the event that's sort of like retconning how things work. Daredevils have an unparalleled facility for dramatic editing and telluric-rich environments. It comes easy for them. So if a daredevil wanted to decide a security guard at a villa is an old war buddy who will help in the mission, you can spend momentum to make that change. Mesmerists have the uncanny power that manifests in unpredictable ways, so you can exchange one gift for another of a similar nature for that scene. Various other things that I'm not going to give away. Stalwarts can push themselves to absolute limits. So once per story, you may use a supercharge of her abilities by making a dramatic edit of her limitations. Oh, so you can change how your limits are on using an ability. So I don't know what those limits are, but I am going to imagine that those limits are something like, okay, so you can only use this power in a very specific circumstance, but in this case, because you spent whatever inspiration to use this dramatic edit, you can now use, say, like, you're invincible to bullets to you're now invincible to any physical object temporarily or something. In any case, now I did mention with the new rules there are special environments, and I wanted to cover special environments. You can fight in an active volcano, alien world, dimensional rift, hollow earth cavern, high mountain, extreme elevation. Let's go over the active volcano. So there's various complications that get added onto this, as well as the possibility of injuring yourself if you fail a roll, as far as I can see here. Fires are frequent, and destruction caused by lava flow as well as the flow itself may be complicated terrain with a +1 or +3 complication, or 2+3 complication. Inflicting injury conditions reflecting burns, injuries caused by displaced debris, and exposure to lava. Suffocation through adequate protection or face covering may provide enhancement. So covering yourself from inhaling smoke might help you avoid the complications and provide enhancements. Occasionally during an eruption in an active volcano, you may unleash a supremely deadly pyroclastic flow, a fast-moving current of stifling air that incinerates and ignites anything it touches. Minor characters caught in the flow are immediately killed, while characters must resist the pyroclastic flow with a +5 complication each round for 3 rounds in order to survive. Failure to buy off the complication inflicts an injury with the aggravated tag. Oof. That is rough. I have definitely had players who have stuck their hands into lava in games before because they thought it wasn't real, even though I gave them all the flags that it was real. But they put a magical weapon or artifact into the lava and were like, this'll be fine. It's just a magical weapon. It should have been destroyed by the magma. Anyway, so we did talk about the super science. There is different super science here than in the other systems, I think. It might be flavored differently, but it's probably similar. Let's see, super science traditions, artifacts of enigmatic power. They're a step beyond the physical sciences that comprise super science artifacts. These artifacts use telluric energy to create wondrous effects that are beyond normal human capabilities. Many traditions across the world produce strange creations rivaling those created by super cutting-edge technology sciences. Tarot decks that can reliably predict or potential harm from their readers, lovingly carved arrows that strike without regard to distance. So these are magical items. From obscure backwood redoubt to cosmopolitan drawing room, these techniques and artifacts clearly exhibit impressive powers, but do not follow the paths of cutting-edge technological development, or bespoke ray gun design that so much super science does. So these are sort of traditional magical items of history. So we have the artifacts. Moments of desperate genius, especially for inspired heroes facing the dangers and strange events of the Continuum's 1930s, it's not only always possible to have bespoke super science solutions available for every crisis. Sometimes heroes muddle through with their native wits and abilities. Other times, however, an intrepid explorer looks at the charging mastodon and then to his trusty automatic phonograph and gets an idea. Desperate genius allows those with super science items or artifacts to attempt to repurpose them to meet the immediate challenge. Okay, so you can basically jury-rig your super science item to do something completely different. We've got some new flaws here. These are probably specifically for creating these devices, so sinister, crafting stunts, things that adjust item creation. I know people really like item creation, but it is something that I always get a little nervous about as a game master. I do not like it when players can create stuff because usually the creation rules can be broken in some ways. But that's just me. I think it was the time I played in a realistic setting and a player created power armor using the rules in the book, or another time when a player used the item creation rules in a book, not this book, but in another indie RPG, where basically they created a helicopter that was the Firefly from Serenity, basically. We are going to go over... I wanted to see building, and I wanted to see the field complications, environmental stuff. Oh god, I have to go back to the index table of contents, because that was something I was really interested in showing off. As a game master, building your environments. Here we go. Various rules here for building an environment, so as if you want to have a pitch black scene, there are rules for having it as a complication. There are dizzying heights, there's flooding, filthy high winds, overstimulated. Where's the crowded one? I'll read off the crowded one. So, for instance, your group decides that they want to go to an event, a sort of charity event where a bunch of organizers are auctioning off telluric devices, and there are people all around you who are chatting and being social, and you need to figure out a way of sort of going through the group. But someone sets off a gun, an enemy, before you're able to get to them, and now the entire crowd is sort of stampeding a bit. Oh, but you can use this for social engagements too. So scratch the having a gun get shot off. Apply this complication to any attack actions and any movement actions unless the character can fly or has otherwise unerring aim. In an intrigue, apply this complication to all social actions involving speech unless the character has a way to communicate directly or non-verbally, such as sign language or telepathy. Consequences. If not bought off on a movement action, the character risks getting lost or turned around or pushed into another range band rather than the desired destination. If not bought off on an attack action, the results of purchased stunts are applied to a target or piece of scenery chosen by the story guide in the same range band. So if you try and shoot an assassin, or shoot an assassination target in a crowded room, I might say, hey, you just shot one of your teammates. Makes sense. And now I'm leaning out of the camera. Okay. And there are alternative intrigue consequences, which I love that. I love environmental hazards that are not just combat related, but they are also socially related or investigatively related. Someone important overhears your conversation and the target gets the right idea but misinterprets important aspects, or an intended target cannot hear at all. Okay. That is pretty cool. I like that. We might not have enough time to go over more things. I think antagonists. I should go over antagonists a bit, just in case there's some additional information here. Flux Beast. This antagonist warps the powers of flux around them, causing strange eddies and telluric tide. While the Flux Beast is present in the field, the cost of all dramatic editing is decreased by 1 to a minimum of 0. However, because its presence is a drain on reality, the cost of extraordinary effort actions, as well as inspiration costs of any gifts, increased by 1. Okay, so just having this creature around makes things a lot more difficult to happen, and some things a lot easier to happen. We've got some body jumping with the possession. Power Thief allows people to steal a character's inspiration to regain points of spent source. Man, I've got to go around here on a different thing. Oh, we've got rules for lackeys. Always like a good lackey. The thing about games like these that I love is the simplified dice pools, simplified enemy stat blocks for like minor characters. You have your primary pool, you have your secondary pool, and your desperation pool, which is any action that they're not trained in. It seems here that basically your primary pool has 3, for an enemy, has 3 major skills that they're associated with, or in this case, like action types. And then your secondary pool has 2, and your desperation pool is for everything else. And then you have some enhancements if you want. This is just a very free-form system. It's not sort of like hard and fast. You've got fascist agitators. This is a good enemy to punch in the face. Probably in the way that Captain America would. So it seems like there's some rules you can extrapolate from here on how to create them, but it's not a hard and fast rules system as far as NPC creation goes, I think. Oh, there is a template for small dinosaurs. I think there must be a template for giant dinosaurs then. You have me searching now. This is what you've done to me, Ian. I blame you even if someone else wrote this section. Okay, there's got to be a dinosaur thing for if you wish to create larger carnivorous beasts, give them size and natural weapons and other extraordinary powers. Okay. You got me excited. Some inspired characters. Dr. Manfred von Zorbo. Okay. Felicia Smith. These are definitely some people who are definitely based off of some pulp fiction, pulpy adventure type characters, probably. I'm glad that they have stats for 37 because they seem to be someone that you would probably want as a character. Got some parallel dimension stuff in here. 3 most powerful inspired. Oh, these are the people who are really, really good. So these are Maxwell Mercer, Sarah Carr, and I might have just skipped one. Oh yeah, Michael Donegal. Aberrant has stats for a clone dinosaur if you want something bigger. Susan the T-Rex. Of course the T-Rex name is Susan. While it shouldn't be the focus of the adventure game, you can try and prevent World War II from taking place. So this might not be everyone's cup of tea. I apologize, but I was watching Bridgerton with my wife. I was watching the Queen Charlotte Bridgerton, and all I can think of is, what if Bridgerton is canonical in the Grey's Anatomy universe? And that makes me think now that with games like these where you can go back in time, you have like this interesting dynamic where you could prevent historical events from happening in order to create these interesting hypothetical futures. Without a UN, the Aberrant War would be unlikely to happen on a global scale if it happens at all. It might have been fought in smaller arenas around the world. The landscape of the following Aberrant War would subsequently be quite different, and by the Scion Age, the world might be completely unrecognizable from what is presented in Aeon. You know what, though? If you don't have the UN, you do have the League of Nations. The League of Nations is around in Trinity Continuum. Maybe it becomes the replacement of the UN. In any case, we've got the Strange Worlds, Mutually Assured Destruction. The events of the future of Trinity Continuum are largely predicated on the Hammersmith incident and the 3 individuals, Maxwell Mercer, Michael Donegal, and Sarah Carew. In Adventure, the incident transpired 12 years before, and many events are already set in motion. But what if Max, Michael, and Sarah died in the incidents instead of being changed? What if differences led to them to kill each other over the course of the Inspired Age? Oof. These are questions you need to ask yourself. And in that scenario, I think after that scenario, we are probably done. I think for the moment, I hope this has helped you get a good idea of how Trinity Continuum Adventure with an exclamation point is played, and I hope that this gives you a good idea of what you want to do with your session. I will be covering character creation next week. I promise you that. And then after that, I probably will be covering Trinity Continuum Assassins, which I am not sure, I haven't opened up yet, but it looks like it's going to be another interesting read. Thank you all for watching. I'm going to just double check here. If you have any questions, put them in the chat. I'll try and cover them as best as I can. Currently just looking to see if anyone is running any Onyx Path streams right now. It is on a Monday, so it's probably not happening. Oh, there's someone running Trinity Continuum Adventure. Oh, it's just me. Damn it. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's anyone currently running anything Onyx Path related, so I think we're going to cut to the pre-roll here. Thank you all for watching. Come again next week, same bat time, same bat place, and we'll be covering the making a character, and I might want to make a shadow character now, because I'm thinking about the pulp character, the Shadow. The Shadow knows. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.